one place to another on a regular basis. Probably you want to go to school, there would be some way you would be reaching your school. Either you would be walking, you would be going on a cycle, you would be going in an auto, in a bus, but there is some way you reach from one place to another, and that's what implies is transport. Transport simply implies movement from one location to another through certain means. Now what could be these means? These could be road, rail, air or water in summary. We would come on to each of these one by one, but the idea of this lecture would be, once we have gone through the topics, we should be able to solve questions like these asked in most of the papers. For example, you might be given question where there are pictures of certain people and you might be asked where they are employed. A set of words, you have to identify the letter which actually makes out a meaningful word. A picture of a bridge and its implication. There are various ways of transport and which one is odd one out. So that is just an introduction. Don't worry, we'll be solving all these questions as we proceed further. Now, before we proceed, let's talk about some of the interesting facts. In India, the first train started nearly 150 years and more plus, and this was the first train from Bombay to Thane within the Mumbai suburb area, and this was the first passenger train that started with a mere distance of only 34 kilometers. And now we have distance running from west of India to the east of India, from north of India to the south of India. So you can imagine how these networks started and increased. Again, when we are talking about transport, few interesting terms. For example, siren. What is siren? Siren is a loud sound. Where is it required? Let's say you have an ambulance taking a patient, then there would be a siren. A police vehicle running for an emergency, a siren. A fire vehicle running, it would have a siren on. So siren basically is a loud sound on certain special vehicles which is required as and when they move for a specific purpose. The next is patrolling. What is the term patrolling means? Patrolling is taking turns for inspection. So there are patrolling vehicles of police going onto the highway, checking whether the people who are moving on the highways have their proper licenses or not, and so on and so forth. And this is a really interesting phenomena. So to begin with, as I mentioned, there are four types of basic transport systems. The first that we would discuss is the latest among those, and that is the air transport. If there are numerous people who want to go from one place to another, they can use aeroplanes or what is also called as airplanes. If there are only few people, that is 2 people or maximum 4 to 6 people, they can move through helicopters. It's a relatively smaller device, but it is highly useful in mountainous terrains where they can simply land onto a helipad. They don't require a whole huge infrastructure for landing as in the case of aeroplanes. So when aeroplanes or helicopters move from their own original position, we call them as takeoff, okay, and when they are returning down, it is called as landing. So few important terms you are familiar here with. And then this is an example of hot air balloon. Now when do we use hot air balloon? Definitely you might say for adventure sports, that is one purpose. But let's say you are going into an aeroplane and there is an emergency. So what would happen? The passengers would be asked to go down through the hot air balloons, and not the hot air balloons, but yes, there would be parachutes. For the aeroplanes, it would be the parachutes. If you have a hot air blowing here, which makes it lighter, and this hot air balloon goes up, we call this as hot air balloons.